Tony Fita, 17.
Rain, 17.
Daniel Parker, 18.
Kyler Ridge, I'm 17.
Selma, I'm 17.
Katie, I'm 18.
Micah, 17.
And I'm Tyler. So who here hated going to traditional school? Okay. So education is important. There's no debate there. But what do you do when so many kids are failing or falling behind because their current learning style isn't working for them? You adopt new models of teaching and implement them in schools. When parents see their students continually struggling, harassing them won't necessarily help them. Students need a different option on how to learn. So choose a school style that will fit for your student. With saying that, what kind of different learning models are here for students just in Nampa, Idaho? What is the problem with traditional learning and what makes it so hard for most students? Traditional schools have what you call a cookie-cutter structure. The issue with that is saying that all students are the same and learn the same way. That is not at all true. Students all have their different creativity, imagination, and how they learn. Here in Nampa, we do have so many different options on learning. We have big picture learning schools, Summit learning schools, and Columbia High School has three high schools within their school. So by show of hands, who has struggled in traditional setting school? Could someone give me an example on what here has helped them?
The teachers are really like one-on-one with you, unlike the teachers at traditional schools.
Another teaching model, which we all happen to go to, is Big Picture Learning School. So what is Big Picture? It's an education model that was founded by Dennis Littke and Elliot Washer and is over 25 years old. There's like 60 schools nationally and over 100 schools internationally. This model is more popular in places like California, Rhode Island, and New York. But why does this particular model work? And why should people choose this for their students? So this is a packet, just explaining why the model works. So you guys can pass it out. On the Big Picture website, it is stated, the entire learning experience is personalized to each student's interests, talents, and needs. Personalization expands beyond mere academic work and involves looking at each student holistically. When we talk about BPL, you're talking about administration that cares about the whole student, not just their schoolwork. They want to know why we're sad and if it's affecting our work ethic, and how they can fix it. They have us focusing on learning that will apply to us 10 years from now. Let's look at me, for example. I want to be a teacher, so I'm taking college classes that will eventually I'll have an internship with a teacher. Though like anyone else, just because this works for me doesn't mean it'll work for every other student. So what are other options students have outside of Big Picture Learning? Summit Learning is another model that recently came to Nampa. And then this one's on Summit. The name of the school is Treasure Valley Learning Academy. And the Summit website goes on to say, Summit students are able to articulate what they're learning, why they're learning, and how they learn best. They can advocate for themselves, know their passions, interests, and have a long-term goal and plan rooted in these passions and interests. What do they do that helps students succeed? They are a model like BPL, but instead of directly putting students into internships, they do a lot of professional development. And they have more structured classes based off of what their students want to work on. So like here, we don't do classes, and they do classes specifically based on what the students want to learn. Through their structures, the students only take classes that will apply to them, whereas BPL makes us do it by ourselves. I personally do better if I can completely set up my own learning plan and my structure in my everyday school. But like I said, a lot of students can't do that. What are more traditional options that students have that will benefit here? Columbia High School is one of the three main high schools in Nampa, Idaho. We have Nampa, Skyview, and Columbia. And they're the only traditional high school with other learning options that students can choose from. So basically, they put Summit Learning and STEM Learning in Columbia, and so they're implementing those different models because a lot of the students don't know about these options. So when they're exposed to them in a traditional setting, they can decide whether they want to do the traditional or the STEM learning, the Summit Learning. So why should the student be able to decide on their education? Why do you guys like deciding what you get to learn every day?
Because it helps us get where we want to be and graduate on time if they're teaching us the way we want it.
So I, as a student, should be able to decide on my education because I'm the one who's going to live with it. How's it going to help me when a bunch of teachers get together and decide on what I'm going to learn with no input from me whatsoever? Before I came to the school, I didn't care about my education. I didn't see why it was important because really they were just telling me something and I had to memorize it and then put it on a quiz and then forget about it. So I gave up a long time ago with doing that, and I was failing in school, I wasn't doing good. So my parents put me in this school, and it was a completely different model, and I ended up really liking it because I understood that after high school, things weren't just going to be given to me, and then I did have to get a job, and if I wanted to be happy, I had to get a job that applied to me and that I cared about. So given all this information, what are you going to do now when you see your kids struggling? My parents knew I struggled, but they never understood why, and I didn't know why I struggled either. In the long run, this was never going to help me be more successful. I just needed to understand why education was truly important, have someone who cared enough to help me succeed in an academic setting. Students deserve to have an education they care about and learn why it is important. Was someone typing that?
God damn it.
5:54.
6
It's fine.
seconds.
It's fine.
I don't
This
know,
is
I
my
gave it-
audience. They were listening the whole time.
I shouldn't have said that.
You can stop it.
I can pop it out. Remember the other we did?